I heard Minnesota had some of the best thrifting in America, so I had to fly out there to see for myself. Come along with me to see what we can find. If you're new here, my name is Zach, and I love vintage stuff, and today I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota, looking for vintage. We flew in last night, and honestly, my first impressions of the Midwest is it's a lot more chill than the East Coast. I mean, when we were at the airport, it seemed like even the escalators were moving slower for some reason. When we came in last night, we stopped at this bar called The Nook. It opened in 1936, so it was really cool inside. There was like old beer signs everywhere. But one of the coolest things about The Nook was there was a bowling alley in the basement. Everybody in the bar was telling us how cool it was down there, so we went down to check it out, and there was just like vintage beer signs everywhere. All the equipment was vintage. They had this ball return that worked really well. It had to have been like at least 50 years old, maybe older than that. You could see in these clips they had like a bunch of dollar bills hanging down from the bar. Apparently the whole ceiling in the whole bowling alley used to be like that, but they changed that in the past few years. Oh, and one of the best parts was we went up to ask how much it was to bowl, and they told us it was free if you bought beer. So that was like a no-brainer, so we had to bowl, and it was a lot of fun. One awesome thing that's happening this weekend in Minneapolis is there's a Totally Rad Vintage Fest going on, so we're gonna stop by. We got the early bird tickets. We're gonna go in and see what's in there. Hopefully we find some cool stuff. The rest of the day, we're gonna go antiquing, maybe go to an estate sale or something. Come along with us and see what we can find. Also downtown here, all the buildings are connected with this walking bridge. It's crazy. Seriously, every single building is connected, so you can walk between them. I've never seen anything like this, but it's awesome. Specifically because it's so cold out here. That's how some people get around, which is crazy. Like this next building has one, and you can just see all the way down. They've got them. Luckily, I had Allie to drive me around so I could film a little bit. When we pulled up to the convention center, we got there about a half an hour early, and it was like 20 degrees outside. The early bird entry was 8:30 in the morning, so pretty early, but I like when things are early like that. The convention center was surprisingly busy even at 8 in the morning. I thought everybody was there for the vintage event, but I was wrong. It's very nice in here. It's very clean.
Smells good. Smells good.
Smells good. It's a very nice place. The airport was also really nice. But there's like a million people here because there's like a volleyball tournament.
Twisted Moose Gymnastics meet.
It's like a million things going on. Twisted Moose Gymnastics meet. This place was so big, it was hard to find where the event even was at, but once we got over there, it turned out we were only 5th and 6th in line. And after waiting there for the half an hour until it started, there was a big-ass line behind us. I swear, we only got there a half an hour early. Like, these types of events, it's good to get there early and get there on time, but like it's not like an estate sale. Everybody's not running in. It's really chill. It's just better to get there early so you can get some of the best deals. So here's what it looked like inside. The top of the roof was dome shaped, and I thought this was just such a cool place to have an event. When I went outside after the event, I noticed that there's actually 4 of these dome shaped buildings. So there could be like 4 conventions going on at one time, which is pretty much what was happening on this day. I started finding stuff basically right when I got inside. Like here's a clip of some of the shirts that I picked up immediately. I knew a couple of the vendors just from setting up at other Totally Rad Vintage events. Some of these sellers travel with this show and set up at every single one, but for the most part, I didn't really know too many people here, so it was kind of fun looking through everybody's booth, just seeing what everybody had. Since we're not from anywhere around here, it was awesome to see the different kinds of stuff that people out in the Midwest would find. We ended up getting so much stuff, we had to find these IKEA bags just to carry stuff around. I really should have brought bags. After walking around for like 2.5 hours, we ended up finding around 40 vintage items, which I was like super stoked with because I didn't expect to find this much. Here's a little clip of everything I found. So the music's really loud in here, but we got this entire stack of clothes. I'm gonna go through it real fast while we're in here, but I'll show you guys at the end of the video everything we found, but yeah, we found a lot. So here's everything we picked up, and just like every haul that I have, it is the most random assortment of stuff ever, but everything that I picked up was like super fairly priced, so I could not leave it behind. One of my favorite things that I found was that first Ham's beer t-shirt. I actually was not going to buy it, but Allie convinced me to, and I'm so happy she did. I rarely find any ham stuff at all, and it's like a local Minnesota beer, so I was like, this is the perfect opportunity to start my Ham's beer t-shirt collection. So this is the first one I found, and I'll definitely be on the lookout for more. I didn't spend too much money on any particular item. The most expensive two shirts I found, and you'll see this one coming up. The most expensive one was this Steve Martin shirt, The Man with Two Brains. This shirt's dated 1982. I spent $50 on that. And then that Harley 3D emblem I spent $60 on, but I thought that was a pretty fair price. It was like a super cool thin t-shirt, and I just knew it was going to fit me perfectly, so I had to buy that one too. That's a lot of stuff, way more than I was expecting, and now I gotta figure out a way to get it back home. Oh yeah, and I also found these 3 vintage belt buckles. They were all $10 a piece. I really like this Colorado State Penitentiary one. Never seen that before. Okay guys, we're back out at the car. Got some IKEA bags. Did not go in with the IKEA bags. We were carrying a bunch of clothes around, and one of my followers, Good Thrift Vintage, he gave me one of the IKEA bags, and I bought another one. So shout out to him for giving me one, because we would have had to come back to the car, and it was a long walk. It's like 22 degrees outside, so it's pretty cold, but I guess here it's like a dry heat is that what they say? It's a dry heat out here? I don't know. But it's a little bit warmer now that it's sunny, but it's still freezing outside. So now we're gonna go to get some breakfast, and then we're gonna stop by the estate sale. Not sure, maybe everybody is here and not at the estate sale, but I don't know, we're not too rushed to get over there, but hopefully we'll find something there. Check in with you guys when we get over to the estate sale. Our first impressions of driving around Minneapolis was that this city had a lot of character and a lot of heart. I'm the type of person, I love to just drive around and look at old buildings and stuff, and there was a lot of that in this city. It was super cool to see. Another thing was that the drivers here were very, very nice. I don't know if we just got lucky or something, and Minneapolis people, you might have to let me know if this is like how it always is, but we were on the highway and nobody was even speeding. Like, what? Alright, we just got to the sale. We're gonna head in, see what we can find. Looks like a pretty old house. This estate sale actually started the day before, so my expectations were basically zero. I sort of just wanted to see what the inside of this house looked like. I just love to sort of see what everybody's living like in different areas. And there was a lot of weird stuff in here. Like, there was this creepy ass monkey. There were these slippers that were like a guy's face. That was so weird. I walked around some more. There was just like weird stuff on the wall. This guy had like an obsession with John Travolta, and there was like John Travolta memorabilia everywhere. If I was closer to home, I would have definitely bought some of this other stuff, like this pennant and these framed pictures up here. I totally would have bought if I didn't have to ship everything home. To be honest, at this point in the sale, I was getting a little bit desperate. I was looking anywhere to find something cool, and I saw these 2 baskets that had wrapping paper, but I noticed that one of them was actually a vintage Looney Tunes poster. So I was like, that's pretty interesting. So I looked a little bit harder, and I found this entire roll of what looked like rolled up posters. And whenever I started to spread them out, I noticed this is actually a vintage Marvel poster in here. I was like, what? And so then I started looking a little bit more. You can see here I sort of like zoomed in on one of these graphics here. But this poster was dated 1986 by Marvel. So I was like, damn, I might have found something actually pretty good in here. So I looked through a little bit, but I was like, maybe I'll just roll these out whenever I get out of this estate sale, because I knew these were interesting enough to buy. I looked through the rest of this basket and I didn't see any other posters, unfortunately, but like, this just goes to show that you can find some good stuff in the most random places at estate sales. I also saw this chair at this sale. This was like $360, but I did think it was a pretty cool chair. So these are the posters I found. There's a bunch in here. He charged me $4 a piece for each, but he ended up taking $30 for all of them. But like, I didn't even barely open them when I was in there, but I knew they were good. So I saw those Marvel dates on the bottom. I mean, come on, that's pretty crazy, right? I have no idea how I'm gonna get these home, but I just knew. So cool, right? Let's see what else is in here. Star Trek. Huh. What is this one? Another Star Trek. Some of these are a little bit beat. Like, they have wear on the edges, but still pretty cool. RoboCop. Oh, this one's cool. Silver Surfer. The Lost Boys. Never seen this, have you? No?
I don't know a single thing that you pulled out other than Star Trek.
Well, hardly me either. I vaguely know. Oh, the Punisher. Oh, it's ripped, but still cool there. Dated 1985 down at the bottom. Crazy. Thor.
Okay, I know who Thor is.
1986. So that's all the posters. We're gonna go head over to a Goodwill that we passed on the way. I can actually see it in the distance over there. Maybe try to pan over there. You can see it. Glorious in the distance. We're in a State Farm parking lot right now, so that's why we can see a Goodwill from where we're standing. But now, let's head over there. Never seen something like this. I don't know why they hung it up like that.
Somebody's registered to in your convenience. Somebody's registered to in your convenience. Thank you.
So we didn't find anything in that Goodwill. We kind of have a theory that they might take some of the old stuff and just send it right to the bins, or maybe they just don't put out the old stuff, because a lot of the things in there were like either brand new with tags or like really nice. You could definitely tell people in the back went through everything and made sure they only put out like the nicest stuff. So for somebody who buys vintage clothes, not the best store, but they definitely had really good stuff in there if you were just looking for normal clothes. Now we're heading to a town called Stillwater. Allie found a bunch of antique stores there that she wanted to check out, so we're going over there. Hopefully we can see some cool stuff. Let's go.
Even been in the place. I'm a 10.
So we just got to Stillwater, and one of the cool things on the water here, you can see they got a bunch of river boats parked and like a mini cruise ship looking thing. But yeah, I thought that was kind of cool. So our first stop was Midtown Antique Mall, and I knew I was going to like this place because right when you walked in, they had a case full of vintage ham stuff. I had to show you it real fast because this is basically my vision board from now on. I need to find all of this stuff. I don't know if you guys know, but vintage ham stuff actually sells for a lot of money, and everything in the case was like $50 and up. Like even like the coasters sell for a lot. The main thing I look at when I'm in antique stores is obviously I look for clothes, but I also look at all the different vintage beer signs. There was a lot in this store that I really liked. There actually was a lot of clothing in here, but it was all like competitively priced, so I didn't end up buying any clothes. But I wanted to show you guys all of this Arctic cat stuff they had. This is like a type of snowmobile, so obviously it's popular around these areas. I have found Arctic cat clothing in the past, and I will say it's sort of underrated because they made some really cool stuff. They usually have patches all over it, and it's just like neon colors.
There's all these up here too. Nails. I like this thing.
This was an incredibly big antique store, and to be honest, it ranks up there with one of my favorite antique stores I've ever been to. So if you're in this area, you should definitely go check it out. I will say we went on a Saturday and it was really busy, so maybe go during the week. It might be a little less busy. There was also a few other antique stores on this street, so we're going to hit up all of them. The next store we went to was American Gothic Antiques. This place was a little strange because it was almost like a house turned into an antique store. So the rooms were all weirdly shaped. There was steps that you had to go up and down to get to different rooms. It was fun. There was like little things in every nook and cranny of this place. I will say this store was more of like a true antique store. If you're looking for really old stuff, I would check this place out. The last antique store we went to on the street was called Stillwater Antiques, and I love the building this was in. Check out how tall the ceilings are, and the architecture in here is amazing. This place used to be an old bank, and one of the rooms in this antique store was actually in the bank vault, which I found to be really cool. Walking around in here, I didn't see any vintage clothing, but I did see these vintage Wrangler posters that were framed down here on the floor. If you guys remember one of my past videos, I found tons of vintage Wrangler posters. I didn't find either of these designs, but I thought I would show you because they were like similar to these ones. In the same room, there was a ton of vintage beer stuff that I wanted to show. Specifically, there was a lot of ham stuff. Like I saw this mug sitting on the counter here, but when we looked a little bit harder, there were a bunch in the case. And these designs are just super cool. There's like almost like a whole cinematic universe of Ham's characters that I need to learn about. I'm not really sure if they all have names or anything, but I would love to know the lore. After we left the antique store, we walked around the town a little bit and saw this big group of people. When we walked over there, it turned out to be a bocce ball tournament. We had no idea, but I guess bocce ball is really popular out in Minnesota because later that night we went to a bar and down in the basement they had bocce ball courts. Here's a video of me after a few drinks cheering on a group of strangers playing bocce ball. I don't know why I did this, but looking back, it's pretty embarrassing that I was just down there with them. But anyways, past the bocce ball tournament, there was this walking bridge that we went over to. We didn't realize it then, but this bridge actually went over to Wisconsin. We had no idea that we were this close to the border of the state. It was really cool to see though, because the river was completely frozen over and there was people driving snowmobiles on top of it, and it was just like frozen solid that you could literally drive stuff on, which was crazy. There's a Goodwill near our hotel, so we're going in there, seeing what we can find. We ended our day the only way we thought was right, by visiting the Ham statue. Honestly, we heard it was a Ham's bear statue and we thought it was going to be more interesting than this, but it was kind of cool to see. This is like right near like the Ham's building, so that was pretty interesting. This turned out to be the most jam-packed day of thrifting and antiquing. We had so much fun. Thank you for coming along with us. Alright y'all, I am back from Minnesota, and I wanted to take a minute at the end of this video to show you what I picked up and sort of just tell you about my experience in Minnesota. I didn't really know what to expect. I'd never been out in the Midwest before, and it turned out to be a lot cooler than I even expected it to be. So like you saw in the video, I picked up a lot of stuff at Totally Rad Vintage Fest, and I wasn't really sure how I was going to get it home. In the past, whenever I bought a lot of stuff out of state where I wasn't driving back, I would just ship it, but I wanted to make sure that it was cheaper that way, and it turned out to be cheaper that way. And also, I'm really happy that I ended up shipping it, just because my flight home was basically a disaster. It was like a connection flight, and I had a carry-on bag and they made me check it because the flight was full, and then they ended up losing it. So it was like a nightmare. I'm happy I shipped stuff home because that would have been really bad. I'll go through the prices of what I paid for pretty much everything because I left the price tags on, but it would have been extremely a bad scenario if I would have lost all the stuff that I found. So I'm happy that I ended up shipping it home. The one bad thing was, so all the posters that I found, it's been 2 weeks since I got back and they still have not arrived here. The posters, obviously, I couldn't ship with the clothes because the clothes would just crush them. So I bought a shipping tube and put them in there, and it still has not got here. I have the tracking for it and everything, and it's not lost. Like, I can still track it, but it just has not got here yet. I really wanted to wait to make this video until I got them, but I just didn't want to delay it any longer. I've been home for a couple weeks and it's just like, why wait longer? In a future video, I'll add those in at the end to show you guys what I found, but those were some of my favorite finds from the trip, so it's really disappointing that I can't include them in the video, but they'll be in a future video. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that I have set up and sold at different Totally Rad Vintage Fests before, but I've only went to the East Coast ones. And since I've never been out to the Midwest, all the event staff and everything who worked there were telling me that the Minneapolis show was like one of the best ones they have. So I really wanted to go out and experience that. And it was so cool. I met a lot of the vendors there, a lot that I had never met in person before. And everybody was super nice. And I would say basically every vendor that I went to had really great stuff. Like, it was a great selection. I'm going to show you guys like my favorite pickups first, and then I'll just go through the rest of them. But I think my favorite thing I found, and I've never even seen this shirt before, but it's a vintage t-shirt. This is the Tim Curry It. I didn't even know they had like vintage shirts from this, and this is sort of like, I don't think this is like an official collab or anything, but down at the bottom it says coulrophobia, which I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's basically the word for fear of clowns. So I didn't realize it, but this is like a t-shirt series, and after looking it up, there's a bunch of other t-shirts in this series like that reference different clowns, and it would be really cool to collect all of them. This one's on a vintage Gildan tag from the late 90s, and I just think this is a super cool shirt. I got it for $30, and I think that was like a fair price. One of the other vintage shirts that I found that was super cool was this 3D emblem Harley. The main reason I bought this was because of how thin it was. Like, just check out how freaking thin it is. You can sort of like see through it. It's that thin. Some of the more valuable 3D emblem shirts are the ones that actually have a 3D emblem tag, but this one's just on this like Delta tag, but it's still an awesome shirt. This one I picked up for $60. $60 for a 3D emblem shirt is really great, like no matter what. So I just had to buy it, and plus it's gonna fit me, so that's a no-brainer. Another shirt that I didn't even know if I was gonna pick up or not until Allie convinced me to. It's this vintage ham shirt. This thing's like pretty long. It's a 2XL, but I've never seen a vintage ham shirt before, and it's got the bear and all the characters on it. And as you guys know from the rest of the video, we just kept seeing ham stuff. And this brand is from Minnesota, so we were seeing like a ton of ham stuff the entire trip. This is definitely going to be like a start of a collection for me. This stuff is hard to find. I rarely find any ham stuff, and the stuff that was for sale was like really expensive, as you saw in the video, but I would love to find more vintage hams t-shirts or things like that. In one of the clips that I filmed at the event, one of the sellers had all the shirts on the floor and was counting through them. I'll show you guys all those ones that I picked up too. This guy had some great pricing on all of his shirts. I don't know what his username is. I wish I would have asked him, but he just had great shirts and great prices. Like, he had this Jack Daniels shirt and it was only $20. He also had this Charlie Daniels band shirt for $10. It's double-sided. I've found this before, and this one's like a little bit bigger size. It's a 2XL, but it's still really cool. He also had this Baby Diet Pepsi shirt. Never found a Diet Pepsi one before, so I thought that was cool. I would really like to find a Diet Coke shirt. There's also this Garth Brooks shirt from the mid-90s. This is only $15. I can't remember what I paid for this Diet Pepsi one. I think it was like on the $10 or $15 rack. It didn't have a price tag on it. I also grabbed this shirt because I'd never seen anything like it. It's a Bill and Hillary Clinton shirt, but they look like Beavis and Butthead. Just take a moment to look at that. I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting, and yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I really just don't even know what to say about it. I just thought it was kind of funny and like just a weird shirt. Allman Brothers Band shirt. I got this for $20. I like the mushrooms on it. This is another one. I think this was in a $10, maybe $5 pile. I'm not sure how much it was, but Hedonism 2. This is like a resort, I think in like Mexico or something. I never heard of it until I looked it up when I got home. Something that I really liked about Minneapolis and just like Minnesota in general was it felt like there was a lot of history there. There was a lot of old buildings, and just the whole city had a lot of heart. And that's what I love to see when I go to a new city. I also wanted to talk about my experience thrifting there and sort of just the experience of thrifting in a new place that you travel to, and sort of what I'll do next time when I go back. So what I've noticed when I travel different places thrifting is that I notice that there's sort of like a different thrifting culture basically in every city. And sorry, I'm just going to go through sort of like my pickups while I talk about this, but basically Minnesota was a little bit interesting because it was cold there. So whenever I went, there wasn't as many places to go because there wasn't flea markets, there wasn't garage sale, there wasn't any of that because it was too cold out. So you sort of had to revert to the other things that you can find stuff at, like thrift stores and estate sales and vintage markets, right? So whenever I went, I only went Friday to Monday. And I think if I went back again, I would try to go for throughout a week. I would probably get there like on Tuesday or a Wednesday. Now that I have like more of a familiarity with the city and like driving around and stuff, I'd probably going on Wednesday would work. But like if you would go to a new city, I would suggest going early on in the week as possible, because what I've found, especially if it's like cold out, you basically want to try to find like good thrift stores early on in the week so you can go to them the rest of the week and give yourself time. I went to thrift stores there and I didn't have much luck, but the main reason I think I didn't have much luck was because I was going to them on the weekend, and just the weekend is like the busiest time to thrift. Basically when people are off work and stuff, that's their ideal time to thrift. But when you find the good stuff, you're better off going during the week because there's less people there. Also, I didn't venture too far outside of the city to go thrifting. I think if I would go again, I would drive maybe on the way to North Dakota, maybe halfway there, maybe all the way to North Dakota, Fargo, who knows. But I'd probably try to get a little bit more rural just to see like what the vibes were out there. Obviously at the event, so many people had great stuff, so there's got to be vintage stuff somewhere. So I'm guessing if you drove a little bit more rurally, you would find good stuff. But obviously that's sort of a risk because you're driving off in one direction and you might not find anything good. Also, I think I just sort of got lucky at that estate sale. Like I went there on the second day, midday. So just imagine how many people already looked through all that stuff. And I just think if you go to an estate sale, you need to just sort of look through the whole place because you never know. Especially when an estate sale company's having a sale, a lot of times they'll put out stuff first and then they might go, oh, there's actually another box somewhere that we didn't really put out, or maybe people move stuff and it like frees up space for something else that they put out. So sometimes you can get lucky on a second day. I just think that you're better off just trying to look through everything because you could get lucky, and I think I just got lucky with those posters. This shirt is really cool. I found this in one of my older videos. You might remember when I found it, but I had to pick it up again. This one was $20. I thought that was a really good price. One of my favorite places that I went to was the Nook, that place that had the bowling alley down below. And I thought it was like so cool that the bowling was free if you bought drinks. Like I've never heard of that. And I'm surprised that place wasn't more crowded. We went on a Friday night. Oh, also Allie found this vintage Counting Crows t-shirt that I thought was really cool. It's dated down at the bottom. I think it's dated 1993 by Winterland down at the bottom. And I thought that was a really good pickup. This shirt's crazy too. Gotcha in Minnesota. I like to pick up shirts from different areas that are, like reference the area that I traveled to. So I'll probably be holding on to this one for a while. It's dated 1991. Just by driving around a little bit, I could definitely tell there would be good garage sales and stuff around there. Obviously, it was just way too cold when I went. But yeah, hopefully next time I go, it'll be in the summertime so I can experience some of that, because I bet that would be crazy. This Mr. Potato Head shirt's really cool. Sorry, this is the only one I didn't steam, and it's like all wrinkly and it's annoying me. Another thing that I felt sort of lucky with on the trip was it got really warm the last day I was there. Like by the time I left, I think it was up to around 50 degrees. So I got to walk out on a lake that was like completely frozen. The ice was 2 feet thick and it was like 40 or 50 degrees out. It was like the weirdest thing ever, but I thought it was so cool. There was like people playing hockey out on the ice. There was people ice fishing. It was really cool to see, and I've never got to do anything like that. This shirt is crazy, right? So look at the front right here. And then just call me Dickie. Like, what? Here's another shirt that I thought was really cool. Dated 1982 down at the bottom. It's just like a Steve Martin promotional shirt. It's also really cool to find a shirt like this that's actually printed, because shirts from around this time period and like older usually have like the square iron-on print on it, but this one's actually printed. So also another thing, obviously like thrift stores are different in different areas. So like what I noticed out there was most of the thrift stores were open every day of the week, or at least they were open on Saturday and Sunday. And a lot of times when you go to like a different area, the thrift stores will all be closed on Sunday. So like if you go on a trip over a weekend, you could be cutting out a complete day of thrifting if everything is closed on Sunday. Especially like antique stores are usually closed on Sunday. They're usually closed on like Sunday or Monday, even Tuesday sometimes. But like if you go on a trip and you're there for like Wednesday through Sunday, you'll at least be able to hit most of those places through the end of the week. And here's the last couple things that I picked up. This one obviously is the one that I found at the thrift store, and then these last two are just a couple other random shirts that we found. The ones that I didn't really talk about the prices, those ones were like the cheaper ones. Like this one was only $10, and the other shirt that I found, this Minnesota one, was only $5. So there was like a lot of great deals to be had. And I think if you're considering going to Totally Rad, I think I would suggest going the first day, obviously like early birds, the same time that I went, like 8:30, just because a lot of people on the first day, they have a lot of good deals and sort of like the craziest stuff could be out those days. But also maybe consider going the second day right when it opens, because a lot of the sellers will have like better deals. Like whenever I set up at one, I had like a wheel that I spun for a discount code. So maybe you can get some discounts on different things. And plus maybe if people travel, they'll want to sell some of their stuff just so they don't have to lug that all home. But in general, I had such a great trip. Minnesota was like so awesome. I can't wait to go back. There was so much that I didn't get to explore because I only had a few days, but there was just a lot. Especially once it gets warmer, it seems like there's so much to do in the city, like way more than I was expecting. So it was awesome. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and consider subscribing to my page. Thanks for watching.